watching the Devil May Cry series, and I don't know what I'm gonna watch now. I haven't really even decided. I haven't thought about it really hardly at all. I gotta figure it out. The link don't work? The link don't work? What do you mean the link don't work? Here, I'll link it again. And yeah, give it a like, give him a sub, man. Solo leveling, I'll watch a bit of it. Yeah, I'll watch a bit of it. And so I see a good rest of it. And The Boys was good early on. Watch The Boys, try it, it's different. No, I've seen a few clips of it. I thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, the show was interesting. I mean, like, I think Homelander is a great villain. Like, I've seen a few of like little clips and stuff. He's so good. He's so good. Like, oh man. And yeah, he's trashy. I think he's great. The actor is so good. Yeah, it's kind of like, I think it's on the same level as like Draco Malfoy or like Joffrey Baratheon, where it's like the character is so fucking detestable and so hateable that it even makes you hate the actor. You know, that's high praise. It is. It's crazy high praise. Absolutely. They're made for the role. Yes, definitely. And he's actually scary. Yeah, it's so good. But anyway, going back to this with Ironheart, I did not even know this shit was happening. I'm not seeing this going anywhere, right? Like, I'm not seeing this work out. I'm not seeing people watching this. I'm not seeing any motion for this, any interest in this at all. And nobody cares. Yeah, that's kind of sad, but, you know, I guess that's what happens, right? Why good graphics don't matter.
There's always been an obsession with video game graphics ever since their inception, and as years have passed, graphical technology has improved as hardware has improved, naturally. And seeing the leaps in graphics since the early 2000s has been nothing but amazing to witness during my time as a gamer.
I think so too. I feel like people never talk about this, but some of the graphical updates, especially like whenever we first saw certain games, like WoW, like remember like old Blizzard cinematics? Bro, that shit was like a completely different world.
For the last decade, graphical improvements began to mean much less. Comparing games from 2023 to 2013, I often find that not just a few, but a lot of those games from before 2013 still look better than the ones releasing in current year. Now certainly there are some noticeable improvements if you really focus on the textures and analyze the pixels.
Nobody cares about this. Yeah, nobody really gives a shit. Because like at that point, like graphics, this is what I think graphics do. Is they just level off. And to be honest, we hit this point years ago. This point was like, I'd say like 2010. Now, the graphics again, and if you look right here, this point is higher than this point. And the graphics have improved, right? Like you've got Unreal Engine 5. It is better, but it's just a little bit better. It's not like it's a big deal.
When comparing a modern game to one a decade old, but playing a game like Dishonored from 2012, or Bioshock Infinite from 2013, or even The Order 1886 from 2014,
yeah, these games look
great. If
you
didn't know any better, you'd think these games were new releases.
Yeah.
They just don't look as dated as you might think for being 10 years old.
Yeah, they actually
despite
look really
the technology
nice.
getting better since then, very few games can top these games, or even match them visually. So why is this? Well, like
the style. It's all about style. Like a lot of the Dark Souls graphics actually kind of suck. Like the fidelity of the individual pixels is very like shitty. Bloodborne is the best example of this. Bloodborne's awful, but the style. Everybody knows the style, and that's what matters.
All things, a tool is only as good as the one who wields it, and when in the right hands, modern game development tools can produce amazingly impressive results. But unfortunately, so many studios have been putting out games that, while graphically are impressive due to their technology that they're built with, end up looking like utter dog shit. A game like Forspoken has great graphics, but looks extremely generic and almost blinding in its visuals.
Well, you see this all the time, like with a lot of the Unreal 5 games. Like, have you guys ever seen some of these games that were made in Unreal 5? Like, I think the best example of this was the Quinfall, that had, like, a bunch of just pre-rendered assets put together like it looked like Atlantis. And it's like people were pogging over this, but the truth is that you can create this with almost no effort at all. Like, it's not like this was some sort of like expertly crafted place. It was just pre-rendered, assets being put in a world.
Washed out in ugly sort of way. Immortals of Avium, a game released just a few days ago running on Unreal Engine 5.
See, that's the game. Remember that game? How many viewers did that game have? I mean, it had dozens of viewers, right? It was like 70? Yeah, that's a lot.
Is graphically outstanding, but looks like an Unreal Engine.
Oh, wait a second. This was the game that I saw the trailer for, and I said it was going to be garbage. I was right. Oh my god, I just realized that. I didn't even see it from that frame. Holy fuck. It already came out? We all knew. Yeah, it's not like I'm a fucking Nostradamus. I think anybody could have seen that. That wasn't difficult? No, I'm not a genius for picking this out. You're right.
An asset flip project, even though I know it isn't. The devs probably did work very hard on creating those assets, but it just doesn't come across that way.
Well,
and it doesn't help that this
hard?
game in particular is so visually bloated. Like, I love fast-paced games, but I can't tell
This just looks like trash.
what the fuck is happening.
Like, this is fucking garbage. Like, what is this garbage?
On screen here. The visibility is just awful due to the graphical and artistic style they went for.
Yep.
While I understand that realistic graphics sell to the casual audience, I'm always looking towards companies that have a more distinctive art style instead, even if it is more low poly. Some wrongfully ascribe this generic look of video games.
I love how people say, like, realistic graphics sells to a high audience, or the most mainstream audience. Remember, the two most mainstream games in the last 10 years have been Minecraft and Fortnite. The fuck out of here. Like, bro, anybody trying to push that, there's no way.
To the Unreal Engine
Pokemon.
itself, but
Yeah.
just because a game is made in Unreal doesn't mean they have to look like this. I think
No.
Sea of Thieves is a great example of a game that takes advantage of the strengths that the Unreal Engine provides,
I didn't know
and
Sea
is
of
a
Thieves
beautiful
was in
game
Unreal.
in many regards, but it still has a distinctive art style that separates it from a game like, say, Atomic Heart. It's not the engine.
Yeah,
it's
see, I didn't play Atomic Heart because it just looked like it wasn't good. It just didn't look good.
how it's being used. Firewatch, a game made in the Unity engine, is another example of a game that's a visual treat, yet is not what I would consider AAA graphics. And to get to the main point here, I'm a strong believer that graphics don't really matter. To some degree, sure, but we've reached a point in the last
Graphics are sprinkles on a cupcake. They might make you want to buy the cupcake, but they don't really make it taste that much better. And you don't buy a cupcake because of the sprinkles either.
10 years, and especially in current year where graphics have mostly plateaued. So art style.
Ooh, have graphics plateaued? I feel like we keep getting better and better graphics. But it's like, really, I mean, they definitely, like, whenever you compare Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64 and Nintendo 64 to GameCube, like, these, like, were fucking massive, right? They were huge. But, like, I would say Unreal 5 and some of the demo engines that they've shown, like, these are, like, photorealistic settings. It's incredible. It is absolutely fucking amazing. Like that one game that was like the police body cam game that people were angry because they thought it was real. And that, yeah, unrecord. Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal how great the graphics are. But not everybody wants to play a hyper-realistic game.
Is everything. And the fact that games from 10 to 15 years ago still hold up really well today is a testament to how true that statement is. Games like Rage from 2011 or Stalker from 2006
World of Warcraft
still hold up incredibly well, and games like Fable or Dragon Age and Kingdoms of Amalur employ a timeless art style and visual style so they can be enjoyed for years to come.
Yeah.
2 years ago with the release of Elden Ring, there was some very strange rage bait online about Elden Ring having bad graphics.
It does. If you look very closely at a lot of the different items and NPCs and textures in Elden Ring, they are below the industry average for AAA games, and it doesn't matter because you don't care. This is what like these like game developer Andes don't realize.
is it doesn't matter how good your menu is, or how intuitive your UI is, or how many pixels a flower has on it, or how realistic garlic looks in the video game. People care about gameplay. People care about a good fucking experience. And yes, these things matter, but not really. It's the focus is totally fucking wrong in modern AAA games. I feel like most modern AAA games, and this is starting to change at least a little bit, what they focus on and what they care about is like stupid shit that like I think most actual real gamers don't care about. And that's why you keep seeing these like AA games and like, you know, indie games that are just completely outperforming these AAA games massively.
The graphics are dog shit.
Are you sure about that?
The graphics are dog.
Look at it though. Look at that water. Many games that came out on that same year have better quality water. Many games that came out that same year have better quality ground. And it doesn't matter because this one looks better visually appealing. It doesn't fucking matter. It's the style.
Shit. The graphics are dog shit. The graphics.
Look at the pixel count on the Moonlight Blade. Is the quality of this weapon anywhere near the quality of some of the other items in other like video games? No, I think that other video games have much more like higher fidelity items. They do. They have higher fidelity items. If you zoom in on that weapon, I can guarantee you that it's not going to look as good than if you zoom in on other weapons in other games that are equivalent to this, that were made by other AAA studios. And you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. And that's what people see. Everybody is so focused on why Elden Ring actually has good graphics. They don't understand the difference between graphics and art style and fidelity and design. The graphics and fidelity might not be a 9, but the art design and the style are an 11. That's the difference.
Are dog shit.
But I'd take 100 different games with an art style half as good as what FromSoft delivered before another Atomic Heart or Immortals of Avium or Forspoken. And I do want to reiterate something I've mentioned in my past videos, and that's that these two things aren't
so true. This guy, bro, absolutely. I completely agree.
Mutually exclusive. You don't have to pick just one.
This guy
a game
really
can
gets
have both amazing graphics and an amazing art style.
Games with both amazing graphics and amazing art styles. Halo 1, Half-Life 2, World of Warcraft, 2004, Warcraft 3, BioShock, true. I would say probably the first Fallout. Skyrim for its time. I think that's good. Yeah. Witcher 3, yeah.
And even high visibility. I think games like BioShock and Dishonored perfectly encapsulate that. But even games like Doom. Doom 2016 and Eternal are great looking games. And a trick I recently learned about Doom Eternal is that the lighting on the enemies are separate from the environment, so they are always lit and clearly visible, even in darker areas.
Isn't it crazy that a game that's made off of gameplay and making gameplay important and the main focus, like that's smart, right? Because like, yeah, that makes it easier to see what's going on because the gameplay is the focus.
This in turn makes the game look less cinematic or realistic, but is much better for the gameplay Doom serves. And even the art style. The game director Hugo Martin said that during development for Eternal, they had at first made the lighting come from the environment, much like they did with Doom 2016.
You know what game also has environmental lighting? And it makes it harder to see what's going on? Diablo 4.
But in playtesting it felt really bad because oftentimes you couldn't clearly see what it was that got you killed. And with Eternal being a much more punishing game and more fast-paced than 2016, visibility took precedent over realism.
There it is.
And I think what's really important to take away from that is visibility really matters in games. It isn't
I always felt like visibility in Apex kind of sucked, personally.
just Immortals that has this problem. It's a problem I and many others have with many different modern games.
Yeah, like I always had a problem seeing things in Apex. I don't know why. I never had this problem in like Warzone, like besides like that one like the like latex like rose skin, like it was like solid black. Besides that, I never had this problem in any other shooter.
Now, I primarily play PC on a 27-inch monitor like 4 feet from my face, yet oftentimes there are so many cases where it's almost impossible to see an enemy that's right in front of me. Why does it feel like everyone just blends into everything? Now, some might throw out the realism argument here again, and games going for a more military sim style or something like that should lean into the fact that it's hard to see enemies. And while I can understand that to a certain degree, seeing things in real life is much different than on a screen.
Yeah, it's just totally different. You're completely right. And also, like, I'm not in real life. I'm in a video game. So, like, whatever they do in a video game is gonna, like, I'm not, yeah, like, it's not real life.
Looking at a mountain range in real life versus a picture of that mountain range, your eyes can pick out much more things in person, whereas in a picture, you're gonna lose a lot of detail because you just have captured a 3D environment.
Well, you don't have the one of the reasons why is that you don't have the depth perception. Like, looking at a monitor, monitors are good and, like, they become better at, like, you know, projecting depth, but it's not gonna be like real life.
But on a 2D plane. And when you play video games, it's on a screen, which is essentially a picture. You aren't going to be able to see the same things on this mountainside in Battlefield 2042 compared to if you saw this mountain in person.
Yep.
I think back to the 2008 to 2012 era of FPS games, and the textures were a bit lower resolution, but the character models were often highly detailed, and it really made them stand out by having sharper objects on somewhat of a more blurry backdrop. This made it almost more akin to real life because your eyes can pick out an enemy a bit easier in those older games, especially at a distance. And funnily enough, you'll often see competitive FPS players cranking their graphics down in games in order to have a bit more of a competitive edge.
I think a lot of that is for FPS, like frames per second. But also, yeah, it removes a lot of the unnecessary, like foliage, you know? Like, it's like there's two reasons for that. It's not just one thing.
Well, I don't think every game should look like BattleBit. It's been a lot of fun playing that game and having long-ranged engagements in my gameplay. You can actually see enemies from afar, or see someone when they peek out from the side of a building.
I'm gonna be honest, guys. I still think the best BR for long-range combat and ballistics is PUBG, and I don't think any video game has come close. I think PUBG just stands so far above everybody else for mid and long-range gameplay that it's not even remotely close. Tarkov, I don't play Tarkov, so I can't compare that.
It feels great to have some of that long-range gunplay in a Battlefield-style game again, like I did back in Bad Company 2.
Surprised you hit him.
I think one of the best examples of art style being more important than graphics, though, is with the PS5 Demon Souls remake. I think in every...
Dude, the PS5 Demon Souls remake was so good. It completely changed my entire perspective on remakes. Because, like, after the Warcraft 3 remake, I, you know, kind of lost hope in remakes until I played this.
Anyway, except for graphics, the remake is worse than the original. The atmosphere is much diminished, the art direction became more generic looking, and both the enemy designs and environments have been changed to go against the visual storytelling that the original did so successfully.
That didn't bother me.
And in turn,
I never played the original.
while Elden Ring doesn't have the graphical fidelity of the Demon Souls remake, I think it's a far better looking game because of its incredibly strong art direction. Another example I've mentioned in the past is about the Destiny franchise, where there are many instances where... Another example I've mentioned in
It's Destiny 1.
the past is about the Destiny franchise, where there are many instances where Destiny 1 looks better than Destiny 2. The art direction and lighting of the sequel leaves the game feeling a bit more plastic than its predecessor. And while there is definitely some incredible visuals inside of Destiny 2 areas, it's when comparing places inside both games that you can really start
That looks really nice.
to notice just how big of a drop-off there is in the sequel. Several shots on the Cosmodrome or the moon are noticeably uglier, and even in the reprised raids like King's Fall, great use of shadows and contrasting colors from the original are now washed out and missing detail in the sequel. Some of my favorite games visually are ones that use an almost cartoon aesthetic, like Overwatch, which has a very Pixar-esque look. Or
Yeah, Overwatch has a great style.
games like Kingdoms of Amalur, or the Fable games, or a game like Alice Madness Returns. These games all hold up incredibly well today. Their visual designs have stood the test of time and can be played today without feeling too dated, due to the strength of the art direction and atmospheric design. Now some games have bad art style and bad graphics, and I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are a pretty good example of that. Both graphically and artistically, they look like absolute shit. And that's not the Switch's fault. Sword and Shield on the Switch looks much better than Scarlet and Violet, and for some reason, the more 3D and open world the games have gotten, the worse the visuals and art direction.
I never really played a Pokemon game past 2006. I stopped giving a fuck about Pokemon whenever I went to middle school. So I really have no idea what Pokemon is like now.
It's both unfortunate and confusing because a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a game also on the Switch, looks pretty good given the hardware, and I was hoping Pokemon's visuals would at least be somewhere in that ballpark by now, especially since it's clearly possible.
I don't know. Well, I mean, it's Nintendo, right? So, like, you know, the Nintendo Switch is as powerful as an Xbox 360. Or maybe less. So, yeah, you gotta just understand it. It's Nintendo. It's a GameCube, yeah.
Every time I hear a studio try to sell their game and their focus is on how cinematic or photorealistic it is, I usually just check out. The industry spends so much time trying to make games realistic without remembering that games should focus more on the gameplay and its art direction.
This is what I was saying. Like, he's completely fucking right. Like, absolutely. No, I don't give a fuck about how, like, her hair. Like, I don't care about this. Like, maybe this gets people to buy the game, but it certainly doesn't get people to play it. Or at least it doesn't get me to play it. I just don't care about this stuff at all.
It's like they say, every time a game developer brags about how cinematic their game is, an angel loses its wings. I care much less about a world that looks ultra-realistic, and more about a world that feels realistic, with a clear, cohesive art direction and world building through its environmental storytelling. And I think sometimes people confuse themselves into thinking a game that looks realistic is more immersive, but I think that has very little to do with making a game immersive.
I don't think that, I think that having great graphics does make it easier to be immersed in a game, definitely. But I think having graphics that have a feel of escapism does that even more. Like, I think it's hard to become immersed in a game like Starfield because of how bad the characters look. And I think also Lost Ark had this issue. Because Lost Ark was designed in Unreal 5, or sorry, Unreal 3, the other opposite 5. It was designed in Unreal 3, and it looks like it. It looks like dog shit. And like every time they do a close-up to a character's face in Lost Ark, I just cringe. Because it just looks so fucking bad.
It's more about believability. Do the visuals, sound design, music, and tone of the game mesh well? If so, then that's all that's needed to immerse someone.
Yep.
Going back to Atomic Heart for a second, I think a big reason why it failed to immerse me is despite its impressive visuals graphically, the game's tone and art direction feels very generic, and it pales in comparison to BioShock at every turn. And I make the comparison to BioShock.
Well, also, like, another reason why I think matters, like, I bet this guy is an American. So BioShock has a lot of references to American, like, idealism, right? Like the 50s and stuff like that. Whereas Atomic Heart is doing it off of, like, Soviet and like, Russian shit. So, like, there's not that intrinsic understanding that you, like, there's not like a cultural understanding in the same way. I think that matters.
Because obviously it was a very clear inspiration and is
I wonder what people in like in Russia and like the places around that I wonder what they feel about this game, if they liked it or not,
compared to BioShock. But in
That's what I'd
Atomic
be
Heart,
curious about.
the Unreal Engine technology is all that's selling that game, because the story, the gameplay, and the atmosphere feels pretty uninspired, which is unfortunate. It's a game that otherwise could have been really interesting if helmed and directed by the right talent. Sometimes I look at games from 2014 and 2015 and think that visuals peaked back then. There's of course exceptions to that in recent years, but I think it's a bit wild that Assassin's Creed Unity from 2014 somehow still has more striking visuals and lighting than the newer games. The Order 1886, despite being a fairly average game, looks absolutely amazing.
I think lighting and shading matters a lot, and I think that, like, once you have Like, have you ever seen, like, for example, like some of the WoW things, and like without the right lighting and shading, they look like garbage, but like actually in game they look amazing?
Much better than a lot of Unreal Engine titles in recent years. Dying Light 1 looks more impressive than its sequel. Even Far Cry 4 has more attention to detail than Far Cry 5, with 4 having much more lively environments versus the more static ones of 5.
Well, it's because this is all washed out with bloom. Look at that.
Battlefield 1's destructibility and details beat out 2042, and it's not even close. Infamous Second Son, Arkham Knight. These games still outshine games 8 to 9 years later visually. The graphical technology and more high-res textures are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for modern AAA developers because somehow we keep seeing regressions in so many different areas over the years. It's not just the visuals, but the animations too, but I'll save that for another day. Environmental storytelling is the most effective way to tell a story and immerse us in a world. Humans are visual creatures, and exposition dumping is often a big turnoff. This doesn't mean that dialogue or even some exposition is a bad thing.
Thank you. One thing that is the biggest cockblock in a new game to me is whenever, okay, finally, now we can talk to you for 30 minutes about something that you have no frame of reference or understanding about and will immediately forget the second that this screen is over. Okay, good. Now talk to this other guy. He's got 10 more minutes for you. Like, Wayfinder was like that. Yeah, I just, like, I don't know. I really appreciate games that allow you to play the game. And then you slowly learn more about the game over time. Yeah, it's a book, man.
Far from it.
Jesus.
But it's important to make sure that the visuals speak for themselves. In the dialogue and exposition, service the visuals, rather than the other way around. I think a game like Firewatch does this almost perfectly, and I plan to cover that in a future video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one. Thank you guys for watching. Leave your thoughts on the discussion of art style versus graphics in the comments section, and I'll see you all in the next one.
What a great video. Like, I'm so glad I watched this. This is amazing. Like, this was such a good fucking video. Like, I'm pretty much, I agree with, like, every single thing that he said. Remnant was really cool. Yeah, Remnant was the same thing. Like, Remnant had great style, but, like, even though the graphics weren't, like, super high quality, it was very easy to understand what was going on, and you could appreciate what was happening. So, yeah, I mean, I just think that good graphics also, like, I don't know what's happened with some of these AAA studios recently. I think Starfield is, like, Starfield is the best example of this. How is it possible that a AAA studio, after 7 years or 6 years of development, produces that? How does that happen? It's honestly just kind of sad. Do video games have directors like movies have directors? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I mean, there's a game director, but he's directing in, like, a different way. Then there's, like, people that design, like, obviously they're doing storyboarding, etc. So, yeah, I don't know the nuances to it, but I think that some yes, some no. But, yeah, I mean, I just don't understand, like, how you develop a game like Starfield or, like, I'm trying to think of some of the other, like, really big games that have come out recently that are just, like, kind of mediocre. Like, how do you do that? How do you fuck up on that level? But, yeah, I think that he's right about graphics, like, in the fidelity of graphics. Like, the actual, like, pixel count of certain things, like, being lower with these old games. But the games look better because they have a more definitive style that's more appealing. I'll link you guys the video. There's a creative director? Yeah, there you go. Starfield looks embarrassingly rough. Yeah. Failure to innovate. Bethesda is stuck in their own ways and refuse to evolve. Yep. Starfield is fine. You just don't like it. You not liking the game doesn't mean it's bad or a failure in most cases. Okay. Well, I mean, you liking the game doesn't mean it's good either. So, I mean, I could just use that same argument. Like, the NPCs in the game are garbage. They look stupid, the story is boring, the gameplay sucks, it's super repetitive, you have a loading screen for every activity, you do the same things the entire game, you have the same 5 guns and 3 of them are bad. Like, look, bro, like, play it all you want, enjoy it all you want. If you like the game, that's fine. But if you want to eat shit, stop trying to convince me that it's chocolate. Just eat shit. Modern gaming feels like a chore. Oh boy.
Modern gaming has slowly begun to feel like a chore. And before you say something like,
You're just growing out of the hobby. You're just getting older.
I don't feel this way towards older games that I am now playing for the first time, or several indie titles. No, this feeling mainly comes from the mainstream AAA games released over the last few years. And I know I'm not alone in this, as it's one of the most common topics brought up in forums and discussions in the broader gaming community.
I think the reason why is because of the focus on an achievement system. And the problem is, like, if you look at something like Armored Core 6, think about how many people criticized Armored Core 6 for not being a chore.
It isn't just one or two niche communities that feel this way. Many different types of gamers are sharing a similar sentiment. And game development technology has only gotten better and better, and games have only become more and more ambitious. So from an objective standpoint, gaming should be better now than ever before. So why do so many gamers share this sentiment?
I think that gaming is better now than it was before. I think that by far. But I think that it's not if the only thing that you're consuming is AAA titles. Like, if you're going after and you're trying to find, like, for example, like, for me, how many games this year have come out that have been, like, really, really fun to play? Like, in the past, like, 6 months or so, like, I've had Armored Core 6. Like, this game's been really fun. Blasphemous 2, I played that. Coffin of Andy and Laylee. Like, Death Must Die. Enshrouded came out recently. Dude, this game was so fucking fun. And I'm still not even done with it. Grand Blue Fantasy just came out. This game's really fun, too. Like, I think there are so many great games, and I really wish that people would stop looking at the latest Ubisoft release and then basing their opinion of the gaming industry as a whole off of that. I'm so tired of that.
Again, there's always the,
You're outgrowing gaming. You're nostalgic for the past. You're just burnt out.
and while these are applicable to some, I don't think it fully represents the full picture, and the problem goes far deeper than these very surface level explanations. So I want to look at that first point. Old games don't feel like a chore, but new ones do. Why? What's the difference between new and old game design that separate them from one another? Well, there's quite a lot actually, and we're not going to be able to cover all of them in this video, but one of the most important things to me is old games rarely wasted your time. They got you right into the action, right into
Yeah, and this is a big difference between, like, live service games and, like, just box games that you can play offline. There's no reason for Dark Souls to make it take a really long time for you to get a Black Knight Halberd. And it doesn't. Like, if you, like, you could get one at the beginning of the game, right, from that one guy, and there's a really good drop chance for it. It's like, what, 16, 20%, something like that, from the guy at the bottom of the, next to the grass shield? It's really common. And if you don't get it, then you get something else. And, like, think about Monster Hunter. The rarest items in Monster Hunter take you a fraction of a time. Actually, I don't know about the rarest items, but it's like that's some of the decorations. But, like, for example, getting a mantle for, like, a hard boss, this is a fraction of the difficulty that it takes to get something in a live service game. Because live service games win based off of making you play the game longer, and games like Dark Souls or Monster Hunter win by making you love the game longer. And that's the difference.
adventure. And other than Metal Gear Solid, most games didn't have hours of cutscenes, or tracking across open expanses of nothingness to get to the next point of interest. No farming for material.
I think that games like Shadow of the Colossus, I remember I watched my friend Jason play a lot of it, and there was a lot of time periods where, like, you were just kind of not doing anything. You were moving around from point A to point B, and I think that's okay. That's not really a big deal. It just depends on, like, how the game is designed and, like, what the focus of the game is. It's the atmosphere. Yeah, I think the atmosphere for a game is very important.
Or grinding XP. No climbing hundreds of towers to reveal the dark part of a map. And most importantly, nobody said things like,
You gotta spend at least 20 hours in this game before it gets good.
you know, you could tell
Well,
right
they said
away
that about MMOs back in the day, and nobody plays them anymore.
if a game was going to hook you. Let's take New Vegas and Starfield as examples. We're going to compare the first 60 minutes of New Vegas versus the first 60 minutes of Starfield. In Fallout New Vegas, you get a brief intro cinematic to set up the world of Fallout and the main plot that New Vegas would revolve around. You immediately wake up in a doctor's house. He helps you set up your character stats and character creator. You stumble outside and begin talking to a few folks in town. You learn the basics of combat and survival from one of the characters. You then involve yourself in a conflicting quest to either help the town against a bunch of escaped convicts, or help the convicts take over the town. And in the process of all that, you've learned about skill checks and branching quest design that will affect the game forever. And in the aftermath of whichever choice you choose, you now know almost everything you'll ever need to know for the rest of the game, and you've pretty much wrapped up your first hour of New Vegas right there. Obsidian then hands you the reins to just go play the game.
Just do whatever the fuck.
Complete freedom from here on out. In fact, you can wake up and run straight out of Good Springs immediately, if you wanted to. Now let's take a look at Starfield's first hour. You're going to spend about 10 minutes slow walking while NPCs ramble to you. You pass out and wake up, create your character stats, slow walk for another 10 minutes with more exposition dumping, fight off a group of pirates for about 20 seconds, slow walk, and then exposition dump some more, interact with your loading screen, your ship, walk around a barren planet, shoot a couple more pirates, and then somehow, after that first hour, the game becomes even more restrictive and slow. And you will spend the next 3 hours doing nothing but slow walking and talking to NPCs to tutorialize you some more. Another 5 hours of fetch quests and radiant quests go by, and then by maybe hour 12 or 13, you have a similar level of freedom that you did after the first hour of New Vegas. By hour 12 in New Vegas, I'd be balls deep in uncovering a cannibalism conspiracy inside the Ultralux casino. Hell, even at hour 6,
Jesus.
I'd already sent some ghouls.
Jesus, boys. You know what YouTube should do? Is they should categorize every Starfield video as ASMR. They should make it to where, like on Twitch, if you play Starfield, you're in the ASMR category.
Into outer space. And games
just combine
can
the
often
two.
feel like a chore when they waste your time or they take too long to get going. And even when they do get going, it's not that good. And while not everyone feels like Starfield is a chore to play, I think it's more than safe to say that Starfield has been a very large disappointment for many, for this very reason.
Sure.
If you want to explore, you'll have to go to your menu, zoom out of the planet, zoom out of the star system, navigate to a correctly leveled star system and fast travel. Then you watch a loading screen, a landing animation, and walk in a straight line for 3 to 5 minutes until you reach a point of interest. Unfortunately, none of these points of interest are interesting. At best, you'll find a copy-pasted pirate camp, and at worst, you'll find a planet trait, which is useless unless you're trying to fully scan a planet, or a cave with a few alien enemies and basically nothing in it.
But Starfield
I don't know how this happened.
is just the most recent example of a game that wastes the player's time. We could discuss forever about the 20-hour feature films in the Sony PlayStation catalog, or the
Hey, no, that's totally fine. Because people get that, like, and also the gameplay in God of War. I haven't played the new one, so I'm speaking secondhand here, but I've never heard a lot of bad stuff about it. It seems like people really like these games. I am not a disliker of cinematic games, but it's not the same as God of War, like, 2 or something like that.
bloated and tedious gameplay design of Ubisoft titles, or other generic game studios. Or we could talk about live service games
Ooh.
that every few months give players 30 hours of busy work.
New thing to
grind
do.
out. It doesn't matter the example, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Modern games that love to waste your time, and only focus on getting you to spend as much time as possible inside their game.
Yep.
Why? Well, because of a game
Because they
comes-
have a store and they want you to spend money in the store. And so the longer you play the game, the more likely you're going to play, you're going to open the store. And that's why a lot of loading screens have advertisements for things in the store. That's why, for example, with Diablo 4, it's really cool that they show your characters together whenever you zone into a dungeon with your friends. But that's also for the purpose of showing off microtransactions that other people in the group also have. So everything is built around, you have to understand that whenever a game has a store and it's a live service game, almost every single game acts as a funnel into the store. So it's like the tail wagging the dog. The store is what decides what happens in the game. Everything is built off of that, and that is the deciding variable whether something will be successful or unsuccessful in the game. Is that true, though? There's a relationship between hours of play and purchase? I think that, yes, I think it's very obvious that if somebody plays a game more, they're going to be more likely to buy something in it. Do we really need a study to tell us this? It's obvious.
Out and it has a 12-hour runtime, gaming journalists and basement dwellers will publicly crucify the game for not being long enough. You know, I can see it now. BioShock released...
I don't agree with that point. I don't think that's true. I think that, for example, Armored Core 6 didn't get crucified for being too short. People were disappointed that it was too short, or it wasn't longer, I mean, because they wanted more game, but I think that most people were happy about it.
And today's timeline would have 10 hours of cutscenes added on top of it, and several NPCs would have radiant quests to complete, with the game totaling to over 40 hours. Because longer means better,
yeah.
Am I right?
Wrong.
That is absolutely true.
Older games rarely would waste your time though. They knew that people had a limited time to play games.
Yeah, I really noticed this a lot with Monster Hunter, is that I very rarely in Monster Hunter felt like I was actually wasting my time. Like, I was just playing a game, and it was the same thing with, like, Elden Ring. And I think one of the biggest determining factors is whether the game is a live service or not. Because live service games profit whenever you play the game more, so it's in their interest to waste your time. And games that aren't live service don't do that. Now, there are great live service games that don't do that, but there aren't as many of them.
And that people are interested in playing other games. You know, I can play Assassin's Creed 2 over a weekend. Maybe like an extra evening on a weekday too. And that's awesome. I didn't waste 2 months grinding it like I did with Valhalla. And because it doesn't take so long to get through, I go back and play it at least once a year, because I know it won't eat up a whole lot of my time. But what about big, lengthy RPG games? I love them. And yes, they can take a while to play through. For instance, I loved my time with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Put close to 100 hours in my first character. And
Same.
Elden Ring seems like the perfect candidate for replayability, with the amount of builds and ways to approach the game. But the thought of replaying Elden Ring is a bit daunting. You know, I've played through Dark Souls dozens of times. And like Assassin's Creed 2, I play it at least once or twice a year because while it's possible to spend 80 hours in a single playthrough, my replays have been closer to 15 hours. RPGs that are more dense than expansive are...
I think that he's right about Elden Ring, that it's harder to replay the game because there's just so much that's going on in the game. Like, I agree with him.
Ones that I always find myself going back to more often, or just games in general. Again, this doesn't mean...
Yeah, Dark Souls feels like a game that could have come out on Super Nintendo. I don't know, like, does that make sense to anybody? Like, that's the way I feel about it.
Expansive RPGs are bad at all. They just need to respect my time.
Yeah.
I do think Elden Ring did do that. It's just not something I'm looking to replay quite yet. Baldur's Gate 3 is a good example of a game that's huge. It's a behemoth of a game.
Yeah.
But I think you can ask anyone, including myself, about their time with that game, and none of its playtime feels unnecessary or tedious or grindy. It's just a behemoth in a good way. Every hour is made up of worthwhile and what feels like necessary content. The real difference between a good lengthy game and a bad one is playing a lot of hours because you're actually invested in the game versus hurrying through hours of tedium in order to get to the fun parts of the game.
I think that, like, really, this is what I wish a lot of developers did, is they had a metric for, like, when people start skipping cutscenes. Because I feel like there's so many games that are, like, I remember Wayfinder was like this for me, where it was like, I wanted to pay attention to the story, but I actually really wanted to play the game. And so every time, whenever I play a new game, one of the things that I hate the most is whenever a new game does a 1 hour exposition of all of these things, because I'm not going to remember any of this. Because, like, I don't have, like, so the way that memory usually works is that you remember things in, like, a web, where it's like, oh, I remember this because I connect it to this, or I remember this because I connect it to this. So if you give somebody the whole thing, and then it's like, oh yeah, you have to know all of this. Well, they're not going to, because they won't remember any of it. Because it's like, oh, well, this thing that happened, like, who cares what this thing is? And so I wish that more games realized, like, how much of their time
they just waste. Like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink was like this for me too. Like I played Grand Blue Fantasy Relink because I saw the gameplay and I thought to myself, holy fuck, this game looks really cool. And I'm spending all my fucking time sitting here watching cutscenes. I'm just, yeah, right. There's a chosen one, and then there's like this girl, she got kidnapped. Okay, where's the boss fight? And that's it, you can skip though. But my point is that you shouldn't want to. That's my point. My point is that I wish that games would make it to where the story, like here's a great example. Path of Exile. I love the story in Path of Exile because whenever you click on the lore items in the game, you can continue playing the game while the lore is playing and you can listen to it. That's fucking awesome. I love that.
There are times in modern games, especially live services, that I would often be thinking about the literal chores I need to do in between the fun. Doing all the live service style bullshit.
Did I play this
hours
one?
of tedious quest
I don't know
design
if I did.
and more
It was
hours of
Destiny
inventory management.
Played a game that was like
I was
that.
mostly relieved when I finally stopped playing the game for the night. Maybe 30% of my time in the game was actually having fun.
Really?
Grinding for XP and materials to advance isn't a massive problem if the grind is reasonable. But we all know that in most games...
Yeah, no, I feel like, so games that I feel like the grind was fulfilling and fun. I liked the grind in Monster Hunter. I liked it in Dark Souls. I liked it in Elden Ring. I will tell you, I liked the grind in New World for like professions, like gathering professions. I liked it, even though it took a very long time. It was like a much more long form version of it. I like the grind in Pow World. I think that was fun. What was it? Enshrouded, the grind has been really fun. It's reasonable. I would say even, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think some points in Valheim, the grind is too much. I think that it's fucking annoying having to go back to the swamp constantly whenever you're in the Mistlands. It's fucking annoying. So yeah, there are games that the grind is bad that aren't live service. But overall, I mean, fuck. Valheim's a great game. I totally recommend it, but that's just one thing that I don't like about it.
Is that just isn't the case. And again, the grind is always extended not for the player enjoyment, but to either pad out runtime in a game or make you invest more in order to become addicted. After a while, it became sort of stressful to play these games, like a genuine second job. I'm sure you've heard that several times.
Well, I feel like a lot of them, like this is the how many of you guys have played a game and you loot an object in the game and it says 1 of 509? Yep.
Whereas
I got all of them, by the way.
Games made with genuine intentions, I always find myself truly invested into because I wanted to be, not because it required me to be. Games like these tend to consume my thoughts because of the world, the characters, the badass builds I'm experimenting with. I become obsessed with it. Not saying it's healthy for a game to consume your life in that way either, but at least you're genuinely enjoying the game because of the game, not because you're trying to check off a to-do list. Moments in games like, ah shit, I failed Siegmeyer of Katarina, and I have to relay the bad news to his daughter. I wonder where she is. And then I spend several hours playing and adventuring, thinking about Siegmeyer's story, and trying to find his daughter.
Or, you're like me. Oh, you mean the fat guy? Yeah, whatever happened to him? Oh, wow, it's a new boss. Let's go get it. Like, I'll learn about the lore from a video. I don't give a fuck. And that's the good thing. That's good. Because, like, I can enjoy and appreciate the lore on my own time, but I can also play the game and enjoy the game for what I want it to be. And that's one thing that I wish more games respected. It's like another great example of this is Blasphemous. I feel like Blasphemous is one of the only games that's had the same type of storytelling as From Software, and the story is good enough for me to watch 2 one-hour YouTube videos about it.
I feel like it's like one of the only games.
Working through other
It's so good. It's so
along my
amazing.
journey.
And I
Moments like
appreciate it
those
more than
are
a
what
game
make
with
me
good
want to keep
cutscenes.
Playing and move forward.
That's what I think.
Now, it would be wrong not to dive a bit into the reality of gaming burnout, which can also be a big reason some find gaming to be a chore. So let's talk about that. In today's gaming culture, there is a lot of social pressure surrounding the enjoyment of certain games. Like, you must like this game and praise it. Or if you enjoy this game, then you're an elitist. The online culture of video games can get pretty exhausting because everyone has become extremely opinionated and upset with everyone else's preferences. So we see a lot of
This
people
is just, these are people with mental illnesses on the internet. Like, there's no reason to listen to them at all.
shy away from playing certain games and trying to go along with public opinion and play what's popular or what's considered the thing to play in the broader gaming community. And I know we've all been guilty of this, myself included. I've played
Yeah, I'll
several
play games because they're popular. I definitely will.
games where I really just pushed through them despite not really enjoying the experience. You know, they just weren't for me, and they ended up being a chore to play through. And it's easy to get caught up in this, I must play this because everyone online is hyping it up idea.
I used to have the vibe of like, I thought, oh man, I'm never gonna really like a game again. I'm never gonna have an experience like I had in Ocarina of Time, Link to the Past, Super Mario World, World of Warcraft the first time, and then I played Elden Ring. And I said, wait a minute. It's not me, it's you. I said, nope, that's it. No, it's got nothing to do with getting older.
But some games just aren't going to click with you, and that's okay.
Dark Souls 1 was the same,
I've had to
too.
get used to finding the difference.
Elden
of
Ring was
wanting
like
to
much
play a
more
game
I was aware
versus
of, though.
slogging my way through them for the sake of saying that I've done it. At this point, for myself at least, if I'm not feeling a game after the first few hours, I'm not going to force myself to see it through just to say I've done it.
Yeah, that's so weird to me. Like, every game that I've always really enjoyed, there's been almost no game that I hated at the beginning and then I then grew to like it. I feel like almost every single game, I hated it at the beginning and it was bad. The idea that games should get good, no. A game should be good at the very beginning, and if it's not, it's a bad game.
Burnout really can set in when you start treating it like a checklist of games completed. But now, I value my gaming time more than I used to. I don't feel as much of a need to be that gamer that's played everything. And I've been better off for it with that mindset shift.
The best part of
Gaming
D4
burnout can also just come from
the best part of the Diablo 4 story, and I'm going to give you guys a hot take, I think the only good part of the Diablo 4 story is the intro. I think everything else about the Diablo 4 story is so cringe. It's so formulaic. Like, it's better than Diablo 3. Oh, wow. But it's like, oh, well, Inarius, it's like the bad guys are the good guys and the good guys are the bad guys. Wow. Daring today, aren't we? Holy fuck. Just the story wasn't that interesting. It just wasn't to me. There were only a few good parts of the story, in my opinion. I don't get why we killed Lilith still. Well, because Inarius was telling the story and you didn't get her perspective. That's why. Of Tyrael? Yeah, the only good part after the beginning was whenever the guy at the end died. From, like, he got too close to the pillar and then the guy just killed him from the pillar. That was the only bleak, fatalistic point that reminded me of the same vibe that Diablo 2 had. Everything else was just cinematic garbage. Spoilers? Too bad. You should have played the game.
thing simply because of sunk cost fallacy, where you feel like you just can't.
That was
quit
so
the
dumb.
game.
I know.
Usually a live service one because of the hours you put into it. But sometimes you just need to hang up your hat and call it quits if you aren't.
That's why I
enjoying the
liked
game
it.
That you once adored. Sometimes you are the problem. But all that being said, I do think objectively many games released nowadays, same as most movies and entertainment in general, while look flashy and have massive budgets, don't have those same things that hook a lot of players or moviegoers like they used to.
They're made by people that don't like the medium. They're made by people that don't understand the medium, that don't understand the audience. And so like whenever they make a game that they think gamers will like, but they're not a gamer. So it's like, how can you possibly do that?
That really wastes my time. It's The Witcher show. And that is not a problem with the source material that it's based on. The source material is fantastic. I highly recommend you read the books. But don't watch the fucking show. Talk about a piece of media that wastes your time. Or what about a game like Back 4 Blood? That game completely dropped off and kind of flopped, but the games that inspired it have lived on with healthy player counts and communities for over a decade.
Yeah.
I think it's because a lot of these games aren't developed by gamers anymore. If you start looking at a lot of the development teams at most studios, you start to learn that a large number of the employees are just people who worked at some other random tech company prior to the game studio, and only took this job because they needed a job in their field.
Well, it's just really, I mean, if you listen to, like, I think that, like, one thing that was really eye-opening for me was, like, if you listen to, like, Kevin Jordan talk about why certain things existed in Classic WoW, there is, like, a level of, like, fucking, like, I'm trying to think of the word for it, a level of competency and fundamental human understanding that with a lot of developers, I hear them talk about the game of insight. Yeah, there's a degree of thoughtfulness and insight that doesn't exist with a lot of developers. And you can see that with, like, for example, you know, Chris Wilson doesn't really do quite as many interviews, but like Jonathan from PoE 2, the guy with the glasses, you listen to him talk about the game, and it's like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Like the way Miyazaki explains why different things in the game are the way they are, it's like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I get it. And it's like such a big difference whenever you compare that with like some random interview with some developer or person that's in charge of a game, and they're like, yeah, so we're gonna have it be like, so fucking like, there you go, and there's like a dragon and shit. It's like, oh my god. Like, this is just like, what are we doing? And it's just like, just listen to them talk about games. It's like I said with Diablo 4. You want to know what the problem is with the game? Watch the devs play it. Watch them talk about what they think about games. Oh no, now I understand. Oh, okay, no, now I get it. I understand now. Right. Makes perfect sense.
Them very clueless as to what makes a game so encapsulating. Now, I know I've already lost some of you with that thought.
It's like, you know, Kojima talking about his games and like the way that they're made versus the random studio that's making a psychological thriller that you're being texted on your smartphone by a demon. What a bunch of fucking trash.
But I think it's pretty evident when looking at the state of the industry today. You know, when a game like Baldur's 3 comes out, made for gamers, by gamers that really care about the experience of the player, i.e. the customer, it's easy to see why they're so successful and sell so many copies, and become a big cultural phenomenon. We need games developed by gamers, for gamers that don't waste our time, because that is what I believe makes gaming feel like a chore. But that's just one man's take on the idea.
I think he's totally fucking right.
Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next one.
I unironically totally fucking agree. I think that most people that make video games are totally fucking clueless. I think they suck at video games. Yeah, you don't have to be good, but I fucking bet it's better if you are. And they don't have any idea. They actively, a lot of them, resent their audience, listen to like what they say on Twitter, look at the people they follow, look at the tweets they make, look at the tweets they like. These are people who have a fundamental resentment towards their own fucking audience. And I am just annoyed by this. I am. I'm very annoyed. It's baffling. It is. I don't think that they're creative. I don't think it's like, for example, Steve Denuser, the guy that did a lot of the storylines for WoW, said that he liked Game of Thrones season 8. It's like, why did you like it? It's like you don't even understand. It's like, why was it? Because like he's not necessarily wrong in the same way that the storyline for Shadowlands wasn't necessarily bad. But it was bad because of the way that it was told. It was told in a way that was garbage. Yes, it was. No, I disagree. I completely disagree. I think that the way that they could have told the Shadowlands story could have been the best story that they ever did. Maybe it can't be Garrosh, but it could have been really up there. I think it absolutely could have, especially 100%. And I think Game of Thrones, I feel like it was obvious that Daenerys had to go fucking crazy. It's obvious. Like, everybody fucking knew that. I thought Jon was going to kill her earlier in the show because she was going to stop him from going to war with the White Walkers. That's what I thought was going to happen. But, you know, it didn't. The point is that it felt rushed. Yeah, it was rushed. It was told badly. The way it happened was shit. Exactly, yeah. It's like they just don't understand. They don't get it. They just don't fucking get it.
Sat on his balls, and he doesn't know what to do. Stand up.
Pull up a stool, girl. Jeff's floppy balls will be there when you get home.
How do you know Jeff's balls are floppy?
I can hear him.
We probably don't need to bring 3 different flavors of Triscuits, do we?
You never know which flavor is gonna give you the edge when you tango with the big brown man.
Is that what you call bears?
Correct.
Jeff, where did all my underwear go?
Jeff, I'll get more supplies while you negotiate with this fur trapper. I'm pretending Haley's a French-Canadian fur trapper.
Time to negotiate. I'll give you $50.
God, I hate this.
Come on! I dressed Steve up as a bear and told him we were playing hide and seek.
That looked like a real arrow. Are they gonna hunt Steve?
Yes. And
Modern gaming feels like a chore. Oh, ridiculous. Apple has no right to do whatever they want for the platform that they designed and built. No, you're right that Apple did design and build the platform, but here, let me give you a good example. So let's say somebody designs and builds the entire internet infrastructure inside of a certain city or a town, and then they decide that nobody can go on websites that feature any pornographic content. Or let's say that you can't play video games on the internet anymore. And so, like, if they find that you're playing video games on the internet, they just ban you. Would that be a good thing for people, even though they designed and controlled the entire infrastructure? No, it wouldn't. So really, if you build an infrastructure and you use it as a means to oppress people through the way that you're creating like a market, then it doesn't matter whether you built it or not, because the best interest of the customer still needs to be held at the highest regard. That's what I'm really trying to get at. Let me try and kill this dick here. This is the next one I have to fight. Don't forget to show your Wuthering Waves account. Yeah, maybe I can do that. I want to do maybe a couple of games of this too. They need to go after ISP cable companies next. Internet needs to be a utility. Well, the internet, and that's a great example, right? Is that the internet does need to be a utility, but a lot of these ISPs aren't exercising that. They're not doing it in a bad way. And when they're doing it in a bad way, then you'll see things change. You're playing this with friends? What's that? Is that like is that a mod? Yeah, I'm confused. It's real bad in Canada? Yeah. Parkour? Yeah, as I said, I'm not really like, I'm in a position now where it's like, I probably should look at playing another game, but I'm also just still kind of playing this and Tears of Avalon. Or Tainted Grail, like something of Avalon, like Blood of Avalon or some shit. Like, and I can't think of something else to play, right?
And we've got Stellar Blade coming out pretty soon. There's a couple of other games too. You know who like would be really good? You know, maybe I should talk to the guys at Kick about this. How cool would it be if I was able to interview Tim Sweeney and ask him about this whole situation? Because like that's the kind of stuff that I was hoping to do with the podcast, right? Is to interview these guys and talk to them about like these different issues. Now, I wonder if he'd be willing to talk about it because of the lawsuit, considering it's still like kind of ongoing. Kill him, shoot him. But maybe. I don't know. Do it? Yeah, I'd love to do that. Did you mention another Dark Souls Deathless run? Yeah. I'm thinking I might actually play the Executor, because apparently it plays like Sekiro. But I'm going to keep playing the Archer because I think it's the best class right now. So glad you're going to Kick. Well, keep in mind, I'm still streaming on Twitch too, but yeah, I'm going to be multi-streaming on Kick tomorrow. And, you know, for the indefinite future. You're going to get a canned PR response about it? Because I'd probably be on there with them talking to them for an hour, right? Like, you can get beyond that in an hour. My opinion, it's not like Sekiro, it's a katana. Yeah, but it has a deflect, right? Which is what I was saying. Kick tomorrow? Yeah, yeah. What, next week's the 30 FPS limit? Well, I'm going to start with Kick and then see how that goes. That's my plan. And I've also talked with the guys there, and I really like them a lot. And, you know, we've had, like, really good communication. And so, yeah, I'm very positive about it. Kick also has 7 TV? I didn't know that. All right, I'm helping, guys. I'm helping. Okay, so we can have 6 weapons. So I'm just gonna start equipping weapons. Shouldn't I just do that? I just automatically equip weapons just so I can have something? Yeah? Got him. Where the hose at? Oh, this is that thing. All right, let's go down here. Dude, I actually think that I'm doing less damage. It sounds stupid, but like I really think so. Okay, let's go over here. Yeah, you've been nerfed? Your relic? Is my relic really making that big of a difference? Because like I remember at the beginning I was doing so much more. I didn't realize I was out of stamina there. That guy really helped me out. Oops. We gotta go inside here. Oh. Got him. Okay. We'll loot all this. Is there a boss here? I thought there was a boss here. Where the fuck's the boss? No, it's down here. That's right. Okay, let's go. Giant seal. Okay, we'll just loot that. Finger seal. Loot that too. Jesus, this guy's